What's up, Shred Sexies? Welcome back. Down to the fingers. We're going to be getting into developing creative practice exercises. Obviously, this is an essential step to getting to the next level of musicianship for anyone. You can play other people's music. You can play their solos. You can work on your technique and all the rest of that stuff. But until you develop some of these practice habits, if you will, you'll always stay at the intermediate level, essentially, because pro-level people can play music absent a backing track or anything else and make it sound cool and interesting, and a person's like, damn, that person can play. And when you see somebody play the guitar, but it comes out more like a practice exercise, they're like, oh, he's just a shredder or something else. And that's really what we're getting into here is can you utilize the instrument to communicate musically and convey your message using practice-based ideas? Or, you know, are you just basically robot boy with a guitar in your hand? Not so good, right? So we're going to talk about how to break out of those bad habits, or the rut, if you will, that 99% of people get into. Everybody goes through this. It sucks, but it's just the way it is, right? So no more chit chat. We're going to get into effectively, I think it's 4 or 5 different types of exercises to create and develop creative practice exercises to take you to the next level. And in most cases, I'm going to be using the pentatonic scale. Of course I am. Basically using the pentatonic scale as a leaping board to get to more sophisticated sort of music ideas without breaking the bank. So enough chit chat. Let's go. All right, set 1 here is essentially just expanding the pentatonic scale. So whenever there's a whole step, I'm filling it in. I'm making it a chromatic run, if you will, of sorts. It's not exactly a chromatic run, but it sounds chromatic, right? When I get the minor third sequence, rock on, you know, it's stacked on top of each other. I get to break it out into this, you know, 3 notes per string system that comes from the major modes. I'll let you figure out which one, but it might have something to do with the first note in the scale. If you look at the major pentatonic, and that's just it. Once you start combining this information, not only do you acquire more fluidity on the fretboard and be able to move around faster, but it also exercises, you know, finger coordination and all that good stuff. So you can obviously make more involved runs too, but the real takeaway here is just sort of expanding that knowledge base with respect to this scale that has 2 notes into it to now having 3 notes, and then getting that sound into your ears so you can be like, you know, it sounds really cool when I do this little sort of chromatic pentatonic run. I'm really digging that. I think you'll find that that ends up being hours and hours of entertainment. So you'll see me do a couple sessions here and then get on it. right, with the second set here, essentially we're getting into more outside sounds. Obviously the diminished scale, effectively way underutilized. This is known as the half whole tone scale as well, obviously. Starts in the Locrian position. And I start off with this configuration. Obviously I'm going to move up to the next string and a half a fret, and I'm going to switch like this. And I'm going to queep. I'm going to queef. No, I'm not. I'm going to keep basically alternating like this until I get to the G and B string. Obviously, I have to jump up a whole step there, but I'm always going to alternate between those two systems, right? This half whole tone and then the whole half tone. And in doing so, I get the diminished scale. And if I start at the Locrian position, it sounds really, really awesome with the pentatonic scale. So you'll hear me run through this, basically developing the idea of hearing the pentatonic scale with this more exotic diminished scale. Breaks down barriers essentially with respect to how you hear these two elements used. And they can be really, really badass. And of course, I cap it off by going into like a major pentatonic run and then just ending with that major triad, right from the C-type caged system. The cage system, C-type chord. There, I almost got it out, whatever. So, lots of elements, but notice how I close out my idea. Start off with the major, create tension by using the diminished, resolve the tension by going back into the major pentatonic now, but use basically multiple positions, ending in a nice little triad. Dunsky. Notice all the actual music elements there. A little bit more involved than just basically doing like two scales. Do you see that? There's a whole spread. Develop your own. Next. All right, in the third set here, we're kicking up the complexity one more time. Instead of doing the diminished scale, we're going to add the harmonic minor scale. Of course, that's going to synergize awesomely with the pentatonic scale, and then I just took all the elements and put them together. Wherever there's a minor third sequence, I use the notes from the minor pentatonic sequence. So this. Whenever there's a whole step, I fill it in with chromaticism. Done. And in certain instances, I use the notes associated with the harmonic minor system. Nails it. Put it all together. Bada bing, bada boom. Check out the shred when I do it fast. That gives you the idea that at first you're like, not my favorite. And then you're like, damn. Your turn. All right, in this next one, obviously, we have to go through an arpeggio sequence or else it wouldn't be a Death to the Fingers video. So I'm starting off, obviously I'm in the key of G major, so I'm starting off with the G major triad. In the root inversion, moving to the G major pentatonic. But then I get sneaky, okay, and I jump up to effectively G sharp, right? So when I do that, I'm moving from the key of G major to the key of A major, right? And so that changes everything. Obviously, I'm now playing in the key of F sharp minor, right? And A major rather than G major and E minor. So those two things are kind of sympathetic. But when I jump up there, I use the dominant 7 inversion from the Locrian position, and I move into obviously the Dorian position from the pentatonic based around the G major system, which creates this really cool shift. Now, obviously, when I'm doing it slow, it's a little rough, but of course, I've shown you all the tricks now by adding some chromaticism and adding in those extra notes to smooth out those jagged edges. And so when you hear me do it faster, you're like, that's an absolute win. Okay, so the big part here is play arpeggios and the pentatonics together, obviously to develop those two systems. And there are two types. One where you're playing strictly in the key. I'm using the major triad in the first degree, and then I play the pentatonic that's based off the first degree. Done. But for the Dorian position, now I proceed it with an arpeggio borrowed from another key, A major. I know, fancy. So, done deal. Correctamundo? Right. Check it out, and then come up with your own version. All right, for the last section here, obviously I'm doing it with music, and the point here is that once you hit a certain threshold of speed or being able to play so fast, you're just going to want to do that all the time, which also trains your brain to just be like, play fast all the time. This has happened to me many, many times. You must learn to just slow down like a porn star and take it easy or you're going to blow your load. So I know, sorry, I apologize, whatever. It's Thursday and I'm feeling a little rough today, so this video is a train wreck. Again, classic, right? So the thing here is you got to basically learn patience and restraint. And so you can use the pentatonic scale and the major scale stuff and then just choose a pretty laid back backing track and just basically try to play the least amount of notes possible to still sound cool and maintain some sort of melody structure. And you see me using a lot of the slides, right? You know, there's a whole bunch of other ones I didn't do. If you have a bar, there's chirps and little dives and vibrato that way and whatnot. This is classic stuff from Steve Vai, Satriani, Petrucci, you know, like all of it's in there. You can use artificial harmonics if you want to go down the Zakk Wylde road. There's just so many things you can do there to really, or feedback, you know what I mean, with vibrato. Like you pick it. The thing is you got to work on them and put them all together. So you're no longer doing scale fragments. You're no longer doing arpeggios or anything else. You're just using the least amount of notes connected together in some sort of tangible melody to try to create something that sounds cool. Obviously, adding some delay and reverb if you want is going to go a long way for exercises like this, and it's just a lot more fun. But you do you, right? So that's the end of the video. Thanks for hanging out. I wish you all the best. Just try to internalize. I take these two systems and I come up with practice exercises where I amalgamate them together. And then the next level is be like, take 2 or 3 systems. And eventually you just get to be like, I think I'm going to improvise over this music, doing this exact same process. And then eventually you're just playing music all the time. See what I mean? Transition away from like the kiddie pool with the training wheels to like you earn your wings and you leap off the cliff. Done. See you in the next one.